Hey guys, today I want to share with you my new rogue build I call Preparation Flurry Rogue. You could also call it Death, Death Trap Flurry Rogue, Death Trap Poison Flurry Rogue, something like this. Um, it's very fun, it's very powerful, and I didn't see a similar build on YouTube yet, so I thought, okay, maybe it's time to make another guide video. Um, So I also already posted the gameplay footage of this build running Nightmare Dungeon. Here I have some new gameplay for you. So I will explain first what's the play style kind of with this build. So as you already can see, I have quite a lot of death traps I can spam. But the big difference with this build is that, like usually in your trap build, you try to scale your damage around your traps. So you use your death traps as your main source of damage, and also with your twisting blades. But with this build, we are still focusing on poison damage. So poison imbuement is still the most important skill, and we want to scale our damage in this way. And the death trap is just some sort of CC, and it makes our life just easy by just pulling all the enemies together, so we can spam our flurry with our poison imbuement in a very small area where most of the enemies are trapped by the trap. Um, this is like the first big advantage. So it's a lot of fun to just throw your traps and all the enemies get pulled together and you just kill them with flurry. But also another advantage is that we play with preparation. We're not playing with combo points, we're not playing with inner sight, we're playing with preparation, and this allows us to, of course, spam our death trap ultimate, but also very importantly, we can just spam our poison humans much more often just because of the preparation skill or the preparation passive. Because preparation not only reduces your cooldowns of your ultimate, but also it resets all the cooldowns after you use your ultimate. So with this build, we increase our chance of, for example, getting the poison pool, like you can see now, where we can spam our poison humans. So for example, this lucky hit interaction gets much more likely is much more likely to happen just because we reset our poison imbuements so often. So we will very often just be able to spam it when we fight big, large groups of enemies. So I would say this together with the fun aspect of pulling enemies together, it's just worth it to try out this build. And like you could see, I'm able to do a lot of damage. So people that say flurry builds don't do damage or something, I think it's not true. You just need to understand how to scale your damage in this build, and I will show you later, of course. Yeah, here obviously I died. It was just too much stuff, and also I'm playing like the affix of this dungeon is very difficult. It's the explosions that happening all the time. Anyway, so I think you can see my rotation here. I just jump in enemies. I immediately activate Death Trap. I also activate Poison Trap. And then just spam my Poison Humans and my Flurries as much as often. And also you can see I never have problems with resources, with energy, since I have skilled the skill that gives me 75 energy back every time I use my ultimate skill. So with this build, you just can spam a lot of skills. You never run out of energy, even with boss fights. Also, I didn't mention yet, you drop stun grenades all the time, so you stun your enemies very often. Um, This build has a lot of synergies, so I hope I will not forget any of these. And I would say let's look at the skills, Paragon and gear, and I will tell you more. Okay, let's start with the skills. If you're not familiar with the basics of Poison Flurry, I recommend you to watch my other guide video about Poison Flurry Rogue, but I will explain it now also in a very short way. So basically what we do every fight is, if we when we jump into an enemy, we first use our basic skill puncture. So we puncture the first enemy we hit, and after that we use Flurry. So the combination allows us to make all enemies around us vulnerable, because puncture makes the first enemy vulnerable, and Flurry has, like the improved Flurry says, that it makes all enemies vulnerable if we hit any vulnerable enemy first. So this is the basic combination. That's why we play puncture with fundamental puncture and, like I said, improved Flurry. We also like to put some points into Starry and some points into Siphoning Strikes. These two are a bit flexible. You can also put a third point here and maybe 1 or 2 points less here. It really depends on how tanky you are and what kind of content you are playing. Then, like in the Flurry build, we put 3 points into Shadow Step with Discipline Shadow Step, just to reduce our cooldown on that skill. We don't play with Dash in this build, because we simply have no space for it. Like, our skill assignments are full already, and I think it's the only way to play it. Then actually I have 0 points here. These 3 come from my amulet that I will show you later with my gear. Here we put 2 points into concussive. You can also put the third point instead of Stardy, for example. It really depends on how tanky you want to be. And then we put 3 points into Poison Trap. We play with the 10% increased poison damage, because I think it's just worth it, since we're using the traps and our poison damage so often in this build. You want to maximize your poison imbuement. As I said, this is the main source of damage, so we basically scale our damage with poison imbuement. That's why you want to maximize this one, and also I like to play with blended poison imbuement for more poison damage. Then 1 point in Deadly Venom is enough. You just want to go 3 points into this one. Like I said, it depends on how tanky you want to be. I play a lot of high tier Nightmare dungeons, and in this content 15% less damage is very useful. And then also 1 point in Alchemical Advantage is just enough to get this 15% attack speed bonus for poisoning enemies. Then of course you want 3 points in Precision Imbuement, just to increase your critical strike chance. And then this one I only have because of my boots. So I will show you later my unique boots, and just because I'm able to make my enemies chilled, like to chill my enemies around me, I'm playing with this one. If you don't have the boots that I have, you can take all of these points away and just put them, for example, in Malice. This will also just increase your damage. So the only difference is here I have a little bit more damage with chilling enemies. So then the interesting part, of course, we play with Death Trap, and you also want to put all the points, all the 3 points here. You also want maximized Trap Mastery for this additional 12% critical strike chance. This will happen very often, actually all the time. So as you can see, we have a lot of critical strike chance bonus with all these skills here. And I also like to put 3 points in Aftermath, so you just restore a lot of energy every time you use your Death Trap, and this will happen very often. Then 1 point in Adrenaline Rush, just to put 3 points into Haste. I think all rogues should play with this one. And here with the passives, we want to play with Exposure. This is very important. since every lucky hit has a chance to reduce our trap skill cooldowns. So basically this passive together with the preparation passive is like this is the combination that allows us to spam all of our death traps even without playing with twisting blades, for example, which many people do, playing twisting blades just for the cooldown reduction. So yeah, this is very important. And also, as you can see, we also drop a lot of stun grenades. And stunning enemies is also very important and can increase our damage, as you will see later. Okay, so this is the skills. I will show you my Paragon later, and first I'll show you my gear. So like last time, I'll start with the most important items and aspects first. So this weapon didn't change, I believe, since last time. It's still a crossbow. You always want crossbows on rogue just because of the vulnerable damage bonus you get from crossbows. This one has also additional vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, and dexterity. These are the 3 stats you want on your crossbow. And also have a perfectly rolled imbuement skill aspect. And like I said, with this build, we don't do our damage with Death Trap. Of course, Death Trap does a little bit of damage from time to time, but we really scale with Poison Imbuement. So it's very important to maximize and focus on Poison Imbuement skills. And this one gives us 80% more potency. And like I mentioned in my last guide, this is a very, very powerful aspect. It just means basically it doubles up your poison damage with Poison Imbuement. So it's very important as your primary damage source. Then, since we're playing with flurries, we of course want the flurry aspect. So we deal damage in a circle around us. You can put it on your gloves or also on your ring or weapon. It's not that important. In this case, I put it on my gloves. Here on my gloves, you want +4 ranks to flurry. You want lucky hit chance, since we need lucky hits for many things. Especially, of course, we want lucky hits for the exposure passive, but also for our poison imbuement aspect, which I will show you next after this one. So we want a lot of lucky hit chance. You want critical strike chance. So these 3 are the most important one. And also I got lucky and rolled 25% critical strike damage with imbued skills. So I would say this is the next best stat on your gloves. So yeah, just keep your eyes open for this. Then, like I mentioned, we play again with the poison imbuement aspect. So we have a lucky hit of 10% to create a toxic pool, and if we stand within this pool, which lasts 3 seconds, we can spam our poison imbuments free and like have infinite poison imbuments charges. And so this is what I mentioned in the gameplay part before. With this build, we are able to maximize our chance to activate this aspect, just because we can spam poison imbuement so often. So we increase our odds to activate this, and basically we just can spam our poison imbuement all the time, very consistently. And since this is our primary source of damage, the synergy within this build is very fun and very strong. On the ring, you want critical strike chance, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, lucky hit chance. Or you also want maybe maximum life. So instead of, for example, critical strike damage, you could also put maximum life. Also depends on how defensive and tanky you want to be. On the other ring, I also have kind of the same stats. And here I play with the Umbral ring, also from my previous Poison Flurry Rogue build. And since I mean we already have not really problems with resource generation just because of Death Trap, but I've not tested it, but I think this ring is still worth it. So sometimes maybe you have some time, you need to wait sometimes for your trap to like your cooldown to activate. So I think it's still worth to play with this ring. But if you don't have it, just I don't know, you can put some offensive aspect, for example, more increased attack speed, by the way, for example, something like this. But I really like this ring. Okay, so my amulet. I'm very happy with my amulet. I have +3 skills, +3 ranks of all imbuement skills, so just increases damage of my poison imbuement. +3 to weapon mastery. Cooldown reduction, very important with this build. You want a lot of cooldown reduction. And also movement speed, 20% is quite nice since we don't play with dash. Yeah, you have yeah, it just makes your life a little bit easier to have so much movement speed, so you can just move quicker. Here, instead of the aspect that dazes enemies, I have replaced it with this one um, that makes me deal 60% more damage to stunned enemies. And like I said, with the exposure passive, we not only reduce our cooldowns of trap skills, but we also drop a lot of stun grenades. And now you can see that it's quite worth not only for defensive purposes, but also for offensive. Because 60% more damage, and this is by the way multiplied damage, as you can see stated by the X in the brackets. So it's just 60% more damage on our total damage, and this is very much. So if you're able to consistently trigger your stun grenades with enough lucky hits, then you will deal 60% more damage quite often, and this is very helpful versus elite packs, for example. So let's continue with the helmet. On your helmet, you want +4 ranks of poison imbuement. You again want cooldown reduction and basically maximum life. So these three are your most important stats. And then you also would like have some defensive stats. In this case, I have total armor. I think damage reduction is a little bit better if you can find this, but I'm quite happy with this helmet. And on the aspects, it just doesn't matter where you put it. Like you have your helmet, your chest, and your pants, and you should put these 3 defensive aspects wherever you like on these items. So on my helmet, I have 23% less damage from crowd control enemies, and I'm wearing the Penitent Greaves, also like in my last build with the Flurry Rogue. And with this unique boots, I just chill all the enemies around me and also deal more damage to them. So these boots alone activate a lot of CC synergies for my build, and so my helmet just provides me, just gives me more damage reduction from crowd control enemies, so this is a very nice synergy. Also, of course, my Umbral Ring restores my energy for crowd controlling enemies, so yeah, these boots are very important. Then on my chest I have the most important defensive aspect, where you gain up to 50% more armor. Just for your information, if you're playing high tier nightmare dungeons, armor gets a little bit less worth it, because if you face enemies that are 20 level above you, for example, your armor stats just will lose effectiveness quite quickly. So I always prefer damage reduction instead of total armor, but this defensive aspect is still I think the best one in the game. So yeah, just that you know. On your armor, you want maximum life. You want, like I said, damage reduction or total armor. Um, and yeah, these are the uh, most important stats. Also in your pants, you want again maximum life. You want damage reduction. Dodge chance quite is also quite nice actually. I looked it up. As a rogue, you have a lot of dexterity, so my dodge chance is 14%. It's quite okay, I would say. It's just another layer of defensiveness on top of armor and damage reduction, so I really like the pants. The free ranks on Poison Trap don't matter here at all, but it's just my best pants. So yeah, I think now the weapons. I'll start with the dagger. Actually, this unique dagger, I really like it. And I think the number one reason why I like it is just because it provides me with additional lucky hit chance. So I just get more lucky hit chance, and this increases my yeah lucky hit chance of my skills quite a lot. And yeah, also I get attack speed, which yeah is also quite nice. So I think this dagger, even though it's not the best weapon regarding of damage, since it's a dagger and you also always want a sword instead of dagger, you can also check out my videos regarding this topic. You also want swords, but yeah, I think the lucky hit chance is worth it, and so yeah, I like to play with this dagger. But your other weapon should be a strong sword, like just a sword with high DPS, and you want vulnerable damage and critical strike chance on your sword. Also dexterity if possible. In this case, I don't have the dexterity, unfortunately. But yeah, you want a big sword, and here you have several options. Right now I'm running the Edge Master aspect with 15% more damage based on my primary resource. I think you can try something different here. For example, I also really like the aspect which provides you up to 9% critical strike chance for hitting vulnerable enemies. So this one is quite good, and also, like I mentioned, something like increased attack speed, um, or yeah, I don't know. I think something like this, or also there's one which increases your core skill damage after you use basic skills. So just use the offensive aspect you like, but for now I prefer this one, Edge Master, or like I mentioned, the one that increases your critical strike chance by 9%. Okay, so this is my gear. Very nice with this build is, even though it shows me I have 38% critical strike chance, actually it's much more just because of all these skills I have. So I think my critical strike chance is something around 60-70%. And yeah, that's just a lot. And also, as you can see, I try to maximize my critical strike damage and my vulnerable damage bonus. So these two, together with your imbuement skill potency, are your damage scalars. And now let's take a look at Paragon board. I think the Paragon board is something that my build, like in my build, I do it much different from most other people I saw on YouTube. And I think until now, so far, I'm not sure if this is the best build, of course, but I'm very happy with this, and I think this one is better than the other Death Trap builds regarding of Paragon. So I will explain. I start with my efficiency glyph, just like with my poison flurry rogue. So basically, the first three boards are kind of the same, I think. So you want this glyph just because it increases your imbuement skill potency by another 20%. So what this means basically is you just deal 20% more damage with your poison damage. And yeah, as I said already, you spam this poison damage all the time. Then you want to take both nodes. This node is not that good actually, but because of this glyph, it's worth it to take it. Then you go up here and you want to first get to your glyph. And I think here made a different change. Yeah, with this build you want to play your control glyph. So the control glyph says you deal 10% more damage to chilled enemies or 20% more damage to stunned enemies. This is again a 20% multiplier, so this multiplies your whole damage, so it's very strong. And I already have on my amulet 60% more damage to stunned enemies, so here 20% more. Sorry, here 20% more. So very nice against stunned enemies. And also 100% damage to crowd control enemies also significantly pushes our damage. You also want to take this node here with 30% damage to crowd control. Then you want this node. It's also quite a lot of damage to healthy enemies, so your first cast will have much more damage. Quite useful. Then damage reduction from elites, very useful for be a little bit more tanky. And here 30% to crowd control. I took this primary because of the critical strike damage, because here you also get critical strike damage to crowd control enemies. So very useful. Then the next board. Oh, and by the way, here I forgot a cheap note. So I think this is the most powerful glyph for rogues with the penitent boots. So 25% more damage quite often or all the time. So it's very nice. Then you want to go to this exploit weakness board. Here you also first want to take your glyph, and here you have the combat glyph. This increases your critical strike damage with core skills by 80%. It's quite a lot. So you want to put all your intelligence points, like as many as you can get here. I think here it's like 9 points, like 9 different nodes. And also your skills restore 12% of the energy cost, so also quite useful. You want to take both nodes. Vulnerable damage, especially very important for scaling damage. So you also want to take this one, exploit, with more vulnerable damage. And also here, damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, also quite useful. And then here I took the legendary node. I can imagine I will replace it when I hit level 100 and change my board again a little bit. I'm not sure if this is worth it, since it's very slow that the damage stacks here, but yeah, so far I use it. I think it's quite okay, but I might replace it one day. Then you want to move up to the Havoc node, so again more critical strike damage, very important for scaling damage. And then your last glyph for this board is the tracker glyph, so your poison damage effects last 33% longer. So basically your poison imbuement just deals 33% more damage over 2 seconds. So again, damage scaling with our poison build. You take the focus node and you take the lawless node. And from there you want to either go up to here and take this node for less damage, for more damage reduction, or you will go to the next board attachment for the last glyph. But as I said, I'm not level 100 yet. I also don't have all of the Paragon points because I'm just too lazy to do side quests. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I think this is it just gives you the major part of it. And as you can see, all these glyphs have nothing to do with my death trap. So it's all about maximizing our critical damage, vulnerable damage, and our poison imbuement skill. So I think this is it. I hope I didn't forget too many things. To make it a little conclusion here. So this build is very fun just because of all these synergies. Like I mentioned before, you stun your enemies. Stunning enemies provides you with defensive utility. It gives you much more damage to enemies, like in a very significant way. Um, Death traps is just a nice CC. It pulls your enemies together. It makes your flurry much more efficient. Also, it allows you to spam your poison imbuements much more often. Then this increases your chance to cast Toxic Pool, where you can spam even more poison imbuement skills. You always use your poison trap for more critical strike chance, and of course to reset your death trap. Maybe I didn't mention it yet. You need to spam your poison traps all the time, and then after dealing damage to the enemies, you will, in this way, you will reduce your cooldown for death trap. So poison trap also very important, and also poison trap very good with the with this disobedience aspect. So you stack your armor very quickly because this is also damage over time effect. So yeah, it just plays together very well. You are always, you have all your skills with no cooldowns very often. You just spam your skills. You make a lot of damage, a lot of CC. Together with the Paragon board, the way I build it, you deal a lot of damage due to the poison. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, very powerful, a lot of synergies. And I hope you liked it. Please leave me a comment or like and try out this build and tell me if you tried it out, if you had fun with this or not. And I would say I'll see you in the next guide and have a nice day. Bye bye.